tell us a story that's kind of a tall tale, but she says it's true. You be the judge of that.
Hi, I'm calling this story Entertaining 101. I was just recently asked what's the stupidest thing you ever did. Well, there's a long list, but I went back to the archives and came up with this one. When I was first married, I didn't do any entertaining. Joe was in college and, well, our tiny apartment only had 2 rooms, and since then, I've had kitchens that were, I've had closets that were bigger than my kitchen. Joe and I ate at a table that was the size of half a card table. If you came over, you might have got a soda or a beer, chips and pretzels. You know, back then you couldn't even order a pizza. But then Joe graduated and became employed, and I became pregnant and became unemployed. I left my teaching job to go with him to Albany, New York, where he was going to be on a short-term construction project. Well, our apartment in Latham, New York was bigger than the one we had, but by the time we unpacked, it was almost time to repack and move back to Pennsylvania. Well, now, the next apartment we had was state-of-the-art. It was a garden apartment. And to qualify as a garden apartment, you have to have a sliding glass door and a balcony. And our apartments were the first ones in town that had that. We were on the top floor too. And we had air conditioning, 3 of them. They were built right into the wall in our living room, our bedroom, and the baby's room. We were living high. About that time, my sister-in-law called up and she asked Joe and his brother to give her $50 each to help her put on a party for Joe's parents' 25th wedding anniversary. $50 was 1/3 of our rent, but we came up with the money, and Joanne took the ball and ran with it. She lived out of state, so I guess the party was at a restaurant or a hotel or someplace. I don't remember that party at all. What I do remember is because Joanne put on a party for Joe's parents' 25th wedding anniversary, I thought it was my duty to put on a party for my parents. I thought it was payback for the wedding, you know. Well, you would think that a girl with no entertaining experience, a girl who hadn't even unpacked her china, her crystal, or silverware from the boxes it came in from the store, a young mother who had an infant, would be terrified of having a 25th wedding anniversary party. But I just wasn't, because I gave it some thought and I came up with a plan and I ran with it. Now, the first thing I had to do was convince my husband, who was all worried about, we don't have room for a party here and we don't have the money. And I said, well, that's not a problem, because the Fountain House apartment have a party room in the basement you can rent for $25. Well, that's where we can have it. Now, I need to tell you now that the party room consisted of about the square footage of our apartment, 4 white walls, a tile floor, and 2 doors. You didn't even get a chair or a table with that. But I figured I could get chairs and tables anywhere from a church or a funeral home. We had a lot of funerals in our family, so I could find that. I told Joe, all you have to do is get a couple cases of beer. That's it. And all I have to do is get paper products and order a cake. The rest I would leave up to my aunts. You see, while I had never run a party, I have been to many, many parties in my mother's family. Every party we had, baby shower, birthday, graduation, my aunts cooked for. You see, my mother was one of 11, and there were 5 girls in that family, and everyone could cook up a storm. We even had a party, I could tell you, every Sunday, because every Sunday various families would come together and those ladies would cook up a turkey, a ham, a big pot of halupkis, which is stuffed cabbage. My Aunt Betty was queen of the pierogies. We'd have macaroni salad, potato salad, jello salad, you name it, we had it. And we had so much of it that at the end of the party, my aunts always packed up care packages for, an elderly person or uncle who was a widower, or maybe there was a family who's were down on their luck, somebody had lost their job. We'd pack up food for them. So I knew my aunts could handle it. Well, I had to invite people. And I don't remember doing it, but I must have sent out invitations. And what I had was I still had the list that my mother used and I used to invite people to my wedding. And I knew that the thing that would make my mother crazy was if we forgot to invite somebody whose feelings would be hurt. So I went down my wedding list and chose the people that I knew had to be there. There was only one thing I didn't do, is I didn't ever do any math, like square footage equals X number of people at the party. Well, I invited a lot of people. It was wall-to-wall people at the party. Then I invited people. I got my aunts on board. That was no problem. They were very willing to help me out. And the night of the party came. My aunts came early to set up. And that's when the trouble started. And that's where my ignorance began to show. I was not the hostess with the mostess. The first question I was asked was, "Where's your serving spoons?" Serving spoons? Oh, well, I had a service for 8, stainless. There's probably a serving spoon that came with that, so I ran upstairs to get it. And then I got, we need trays to put the cookies on and the kiffles on, and we need some extra bowls. And I ran upstairs and I brought back a cookie sheet. Well, I'd never used it. It was pristine. I mean, it was just like a tray. And is Tupperware okay for bowls? There were so many things that I didn't have that I was supposed to have. Did you know that you should have more than one set of salt and pepper shakers? They were asking me for all kinds of things like extra tea towels and extension cords, and every time I failed to produce the said item, or when I brought the ketchup down and it was less than half full, you're responsible for the condiments too. They would look at me and shake their heads. I was a failure. It was not going well. And then my husband came up to me and he was upset because he said I made him look like a fool because he had bought 2 cases of beer and half the people weren't there and the beer was just about gone. Well, never fear. My aunts brought food. My uncles brought booze. But they wanted to know where the mixers were. Where was the lemon soda? Where was the ginger ale? Where was some soda for somebody who didn't want to drink? I don't know. Well, I'm lucky. I come from a family that's resourceful. I know that a lot of emergency car rides were made to go to the store or go to somebody's house and pick up something I didn't have, like maybe a one of those big coffee pots that I didn't even think that was necessary. The room was packed, and back in the day, people smoked a lot. They asked me, "Betty Ann, where's your ashtrays?" Apparently, I was supposed to have a dozen ashtrays for entertaining. I had 2 because somebody bought me decorative ashtrays for a wedding present. Oh, I just wanted the floor to open up and I just wanted to disappear. I thought it was a disaster. But in the end, it wasn't. It was a great party by my family's standards because nobody went home hungry and most everybody went home drunk. Plus, there was extra food for care packages, so nobody could complain. Now, I know that my aunts talked about me behind my back because that's what they did. They said things probably like, "Oh, she went to college and she married a man who's an executive and she doesn't even have enough serving spoons." But the good thing was they didn't tell my mother, and that for that I will be eternally grateful. And that was my first entertaining fiasco. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty Ann, for that wonderful sharing of your story. Our next storyteller is Judy Donnelly. Now, she is going to be a little nervous because this is the first time she's done storytelling by the Zoom. So here she is, the one and only Judy Donnelly.
Hi. Well, I have decided that I'm going to talk about or tell you a story about